If they running their mouth, then they looking for trouble. Ran right up in the knowledge, now they back in the huddle. See, they know we can fight, new content every week. Me and Dr. Clyde, keep on bringing the heat. Now they know that we driven, and they know we quitting. Yoshi and the winner, keep on bringing the energy. Unity. See, they know we ain't stopping, and they know they got problems, and they ran out of options. If they know got a problem, can't let it go unsolved. Brain based learner, Afrocentric history, we see tomorrow. Karma is karma, I say what I say out here in the water. Till I see I fall off, then I bring y'all up on note. I'm back up on my Clyde winners, 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 divine winters, Clyde winters, mind bender, Clyde winters, I'm Richard, ride with ya, master teacher, create masters, Clyde winters, give respect to the elder, Clyde winters.
I've not told lies. I've not stolen food. I was not stolen. I've not fornicated with the fornicator. I've not caused anyone to weep. I have not dissembled. I have not transgressed. I have not discussed secrets. I have brought no lawsuits. I have not wronged the copyright. I have not struck kill. I have not transgressed the law. I have not been hunted. Except when I'm talking about on the tongue. I have not made extolling. I have not bragged. I have not cursed. I have not been violent. I have not confounded truth. I have not been impatient. I have not cursed against it.
Dr. Winter's legacy is a testament to the power of knowledge and the unyielding spirit of exploration. His impact is felt worldwide, as he shares and enlightens at conferences, symposiums, and collaborative projects. His voice is a beacon in the academic world, challenging, inspiring, and always educating. His journey reminds us that the quest for knowledge is never-ending, and its impact is timeless. Dr. Winters teaches us to challenge the narratives and to learn with an open mind. As he always says, B1 is not a group, it's a lineage. Let his story inspire everybody to pursue knowledge relentlessly and to always seek the truth. Now let us welcome in the grandfather of research, the Trill OG himself, the Honorable Dr. Clyde Winters.
Yeah. Black first, with strength we rise. Yeah. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah. Uniting truth and kill the lies. Let the researcher do the research. I'll learn to debunk my own craft. Respect is all that I have. Dr. Winters. I was sent here to finish my task, to become the greatest researcher, and that's who I am. Dr. Winters. Yeah. Na 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 na. Let the research gotta tell it lies. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah, yeah. I spent years studying the tides. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah, yeah. Black first, with strength we rise. Let the researcher do the research. Yeah, yeah. Unite in truth and kill the lies. Be one, be one, be one. Be one to win this fight.
We have to always
we must
remain
unite.
black
Stand up
first.
for the righteous and let your skin shine bright. Be one, be one, be one, be one. Lessons whispered at night.
What up, though? What up, though? What up, though? Hey, how's everybody doing? You know what day it is? It's Thursday. Thursday. And what are we doing on Thursday? It's time for our Black History Gems. Yes, Black History Gems. I know some of you guys probably missed me last night, but Eve Henderson decided she wanted to take a break from doing shows, and so we didn't have a Wednesday night show last night. But again, hopefully she may decide to come back online, and when she does, maybe she'll join me again, and we can bring some more interesting topics. But even though we're not going to be doing that for a while, I'm still here every Thursday. Yes, every Thursday for Black History Gems. Yes, I'm here every Thursday for Black History Gems. And the reason I'm here every Thursday for Black History Gems is because of the fact that I'm here to share history with you. Yes. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you is that knowledge is power. And the only way that we can really have any power is to have knowledge. And so that's why I come to you every week to share with you information and history. And that's what I'm going to do today. Today, I'm going to talk about, an aspect of Black history is not really talked a lot about, because a lot of people sometimes don't really know that Judaism or, Hebrewism was being practiced in Africa before the slave trade. And when you find a lot of Black people over here, FBA talking about the fact that some of their ancestors were the original, Hebrew people, they're not necessarily lying, because the fact, in a sense, is that we do know that there was various Hebrew empires in Africa, and these Hebrew empires, in a sense, what they did is that they practiced the Hebrew religion, and they had a lot to do with what we would call maybe the origins of Christianity. Maybe that's why a lot of people over here adopted Christianity and really, really liked it to a great extent. And so today we're going to talk about the kingdom of Gorham. And we're going to talk about this particular ancient civilization. And some of it is myth, and it's kind of unclear because, as many aspects of ancient, recorded African history, a lot of times to really discuss this issue, we have to, usually, talk about what eyewitness accounts. Yes, it's through eyewitness accounts that we know much of the history of many African civilizations, many African cultures, because the fact, in a sense, is that the people, they didn't really, leave records, and if they did leave records, they wrote their history on perishable materials. There may be some oral traditions, but the fact is that many FBA have been conditioned to believe that Black people always made an oral history of everything. No, that's not true. It's not true. We didn't make an oral history of everything. many things we did write about, many things we did put on record. But again, these records were on perishable material. Because they were on perishable material, much of the material is lost to us today. And this is something that we have to take into account. Again, this is Black History Gems, and we're going to talk about the Kingdom of Gorham, history and legend. You can go to my Patreon and see the slides. Yes. Once I complete this presentation, it'll be on my Patreon. Thank you so much, Patreon. It's my Patreon members that allow me to produce these great shows every week. Because my Patreon people, they provide me with the funds to get to the latest material. Yes, they provide me with the funds to get to the latest materials that are out there on the internet. Many of these materials are behind paywalls. You may not know what a paywall is, but a paywall is that before you can read the information, you have to be able to purchase it. You can purchase the entire article or magazine, which might be a couple of $1,000s, or sometimes maybe for a few hundred, or for maybe $50 to $100, you might be able to read it for a limited amount of time. But anyway, in a sense, is that that's what I'm very happy I can do this, and it's made possible because of my Patreon. You can find me on Twitter at Dr. Clyde Winters 8, and you can follow me at TikTok.com, Clyde Winters 3. These videos on TikTok, there's a few, but these videos were made by the great creator, Yoshi Mod, the genius. And so I do have a few shorts, but these shorts were made by Yogi Mod, the genius. And I want you to support Yogi, because he's a great researcher and a very, very beautiful creator. So go to TikTok.com at Clyde Winters 3, and you can view some of my shorts. And there's other shorts that have been put up there by Yoshi Mod. Again, you're on Clyde Winters YouTube here on my video channel. I have hundreds of videos. Yes, hundreds of videos that deal with every aspect of Black history. Come here, check out these videos. Don't just come on Thursday. Come any day of the week. Check out these videos there on all aspects of African history. Also have some YouTube not YouTube, but I also have some YouTube pages. And these YouTube sites, I have published a lot of my research, a lot of my articles and stuff. Check those out too. You can order my books at Amazon.com. Yes, please order my books. Go to, in a sense, Amazon, and just put in there Clyde Winters Books and order my books. Support me in my research, please. B1 is acknowledging your Black African ancestry and mod, not heritage. We must be race men and women proud of our culture and African Black ancestry. What is B1? B1 is unity. B1 is mod. B1 is unity with mod. Yes. Study, know who you are, and B1, Black first. B1, brilliant first. Yes, be Black and brilliant. Some of the books I've written on the history of Blacks in America include The Nationality and Law Foundation of Black Americans. Get this book. This book explains how we evolved from just being identified as the Aboriginal people, then the copper-colored people, then the colored people, and then the Black people. This will explain how we went through all those different identities, and how finally today we're called, foundational Black Americans. Get my book, The Paleo Americans. In this book, I talk about the first foundational Black Americans. I'm working on another book to deal with the Maya, but if you want to find out about the Paleo Americans, get this book, The First Foundational Black Americans. And of course, my book, History of Blacks in America from Prehistory to 1877. This book is very important because it is a discussion of the tripartite, yes, the tripartite origin of foundational Black Americans. It explains how our ancestors, the Aboriginal Blacks, the Black Europeans, and sub-Saharan or African slaves led to the development, the creation, the foundation of FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. Get these books. Study your history. Please support me. Other books that deal with Blacks in Europe and include blacks in Europe and stuff, and also get my book, The Manufactured Genetic Origin of the Fake Asian Black Migration. In this book, I explain how they tell you, in a sense, that the first Europeans are the result of black migration, and that these people were Caucasians. In this book, I show that they are lying. And of course, get my book, The World History of the Black Race. Yes, The World History of the Black Race. This is a survey book. This survey book discusses all of the black civilizations that ever existed on this planet. This book should be in every home. It should be available for your children, your friends, your family, because this book, in a sense, will give you an introduction to the various black civilizations that have led to the rise of great civilizations here on the earth. And you might want to check out this video. First Americans were black. DNA evidence reveals the first Americans. The brothers did this video, and they talk about some of my genetic research. Yes, many of my peer-reviewed articles are on genetics as it relates to black people in these United States. Find this site, check it out, learn about some of the genetic evidence that I present, showing that the first Americans were black. B1, black first. B1, brilliant first. We are black and brilliant. Yes, we are black and brilliant. What is FBA? FBA is not a group. FBA is not an organization. FBA is a lineage. A lineage is lineal descent from an ancestor, ancestral pedigree. As a result, we are descendants of the black Europeans, Africans, and Aboriginal blacks who built these United States. Yes, yes, yes. We are a tripartite origin out of three ethnic groups: Aboriginal blacks, black Europeans, sub-Saharan Africans, came into being the greatest supermen on the planet Earth, and that is who? Foundational Black Americans. Yes, 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 family. We are the supermen and women because we carry, in a sense, the genetics of three different groups that led, in a sense, to our ethnogenesis. Yes, our ethnogenesis, our ability and our rise as foundational Black Americans. And because of this ethnogenesis, we carry the creativity of Europe, the creativity of Africa, the creativity of these United States. Yes, and because of this creativity, we've been able to dominate world civilization. We've been able, in a sense, to make it so that the whole world, yes, the whole world, grooves off of our culture, grooves off of our music, our sayings, and our inventions. Yes, FBA all the way, baby. The Kingdom of Gorham, History and Legends. Yes, we're going to talk about the Kingdom of Gorham. The Kingdom of Gorham is a little-known entity that appears in some historical maps and texts describing West and Central Africa during the early modern period. References to this kingdom date back to the 16th through 18th centuries. European geographers and travelers who placed Gorham in the interior of Africa beyond the Nile. Scholars have since attempted to correlate the mysterious kingdom with real historical regions. Modern research indicates that Gorham was not a fantasy, but likely a European name for the region of the Kordofan in what is now Central Sudan. In other words, the Kingdom of Gorham corresponds to a real geographical area, though the details of its rulers and societies were imperfectly documented by outsiders. Yes, because of the fact that much of what we know about Gorham is a result of eyewitness accounts, then therefore, in a sense, we have to try to really go through these records, really go through this information, and try to recover the information which we can find reliable. Historical sources consistently situate the Kingdom of Gorham in the interior of Northeast Africa, west of Abyssinia, and near the Nile. On an English map of 1774 by Samuel Donne, Gorham is shown alongside the Kingdom of Kovar and the Kingdom of Kauga, centered in the Upper Nile region. European geographers of the 18th century classified Gorham as part of the Upper Ethiopia, lying to the west of Abyssinia proper. One account notes that Gorham was bounded by Gaoga to the north and Abyssinia to the east, And these old sources, Gaoga, likely referred to a kingdom near the Niger or Chad region, reflecting the era's confused geography. Yes, as you can see, we find it in West Africa, then it appears in Ethiopia, so there had to have been some sort of connection. Very interesting. Modern identification places Gorham's location squarely in Kordofan, the central region of the Sudan between the Darfur on the west and the White Nile Valley on the east of Britannica. This area, the Kordofan region, is a vast expanse of savanna and scrubland punctuated by Nuba Mountains in the south. Historical sources consistently situate the kingdom of Gorham in the interior of northeast Africa, west of Abyssinia, near the Nile. On an English map of 1774 by Samuel Dunn, Gorham is shown alongside the kingdom of Kovar and the kingdom of Kauga, sitting in the upper Nile region. European geographers of the 18th century classified Gorham as part of Upper Ethiopia, lying to the west of Abyssinia proper. One account notes that Gorham was bounded by Gaoga to the north and Abyssinia to the east. You see, this is a scrubland in the Nuba Mountains. Little is recorded in contemporary chronicles about the founding of any kingdom of Gorham. However, the region corresponding to Gorham, Kordofan, did have its own early historical development. It was originally inhabited by indigenous people, including Nubian-speaking people groups, but the name Kordofan itself may derive from a Nubian term for men. During the first millennium of the Christian era, this area was likely on the fringe of the Christian Nubian kingdoms. Indeed, some historians suggest it fell under the Tan Tungur dynasty from about 900 to 1200 of the Christian era, possibly as part of the Nubian kingdom of Alodia. By the late medieval period, the region came into the orbit of Islamic empires. It is said to have formed part of the trading empire of Kanem-Bornu to the west, indicating that trans-Saharan trade routes reached this far east. Think about that. From the 14th century onward, Arab tribes migrating south from Egypt and North Sudan infiltrated Kordofan. These Arab pastoralists intermarried with or displaced some of the native groups, laying to the cultural groundwork for an Islamic polity in the area. Yes, as you can see, we find that these were, in a sense, they would be, in a sense, ethnically Negro or Black, but culturally, linguistically, they would have been considered Arab, even though they were dark. By the 17th century, a local Muslim monarchy known as the Musaba el-Sultanate had been established in the Kordofan region. The Musaba were a dynasty of Darfur origin, who, according to later studies, played an important part in Kordofan's history in the late 1600s. Notably, Sultan Hashim ibn Ishwal al-Musaba al-Ahawi emerged as a famous ruler from this family. The rise of the Sultanate suggests that the kingdom of Gorham, to European eyes, was a real political entity by this time, ruled by its own line of kings. In parallel, parts of southern Kordofan were influenced or controlled by the Funj Sultanate of Sennar. There are records that Sennar established a province in southern Kordofan, the Wudiyat province, in the late 16th to 17th century, ruled by the Funj governor occasionally. This indicates that Gorham's early history was one of overlapping influences: indigenous Nubian leadership, incoming Arab or Fur dynasties, and pressures from larger neighboring kingdoms. So we see a combination of these people who led to the foundation of, in a sense, this civilization, this culture. Gorham was not a unified empire chronicled in its own annals. The names of its rulers were not widely recorded by contemporary Europeans. Nevertheless, we can piece together the dynasties that held sway in the Kordofan region. Musahabat sultans, a dynasty of sultans with Darfurian connections. They ruled parts of northern Kordofan. Historical research highlights 3 generations of Musahabat rulers, especially Sultan Hashim in the late 17th century, who expanded his influence in the Kordofan. Under the Musahabat, the kingdom's administration was likely Islamic and connected to Darfur's ruling class. The Mex of Tegali in the 18th through 19th centuries. In the hills of southern Kordofan, the Nuba Mountains, an indigenous Nuba kingdom called Tegali rose to prominence. Its rulers bore the title Net, king, or tradition claims Tegali's royal house was founded as early as the 16th century, though scholars believe it became powerful around the 1750s. One of the early known rulers was Muhammad Wad Jeli, credited by historian Janet Ewald as the founder of the Tegali state alongside his son Ismailian. At its height in the early 18th century, the Tegali kingdom, which would have been part of Gorham in broad terms, was said to rule over 99 hills, an exaggeration reflecting considerable local authority. The Mek of Tegali controlled Shibun's gold mines and exacted tribute from surrounding communities. This Nuba dynasty coexisted with and sometimes paid tribute to larger powers like Sennar, but it maintained a remarkable degree of autonomy for over a century. While not Gorham's own dynasties, the local houses of the Fund Sultanate of Sennar and the Kira Sultanate of Darfur played roles in Gorham's leadership. Sennar's Sultan Badi II is recorded to have campaigned against the Tegali Mek around 1650, forcing Tegali to pay annual tribute and slaves. In the 18th century, as Sennar weakened, the sultans of Darfur claimed suzerainty over Kordofan. Darfur Sultan Muhammad Terab eventually invaded and took control of the Kordofan in the 1770s through 1780s, though this is not explicitly named Gorham in sources. Thus, Gorham did not have a single unbroken royal line. It was governed at different times by different groups. The culture of the kingdom of Gorham would have been as diverse as Kordofan's population. Ethnically, the region was a mosaic of peoples. The original inhabitants included various Nuba tribes in the hills, speaking Kordofanian and Nubian languages, while Arab nomadic groups known as Bagara roamed the plains. Over centuries, these groups blended to some extent. By the 17th through 18th century, the ruling elite of Gorham, Kordofan, was largely Muslim. The Musabat sultans and Tegali Meks had adopted Islam, though they also incorporated local customs. For example, the Mek of Tegali claimed a semi-divine status as among the Nuba and was the focal point of local traditions, even as he embraced the Islamic title of Sultan or maintained a mosque. The common people in the Nuba Hill Mountains often kept their traditional beliefs and lifestyles, living in fortified hill villages and farming millet and sorghum, while nomadic Arab tribes in the lowlands remained pastoralists, following a seasonal grazing route. Culturally, Gorham sat at a crossroads between the Saharan Islamic world and Black Africa. Arabic would have been a lingua franca among the elites and traders, alongside local languages. Some towns in Kordofan, such as Bah el-Habib, which grew in the 19th century, became melting pots of Arab and African cultures. The social structure was likely hierarchical, a sultan or mek at the top, local chiefs or village headmen under him, and a class of freemen, peasants, and enslaved people. Slave raiding was sadly a significant part of the culture. Even the Nuba chiefs, like the Tegali kings, raided neighboring groups to capture slaves occasionally. Enslaved people were either kept as servants or sold north and east to markets in Sennar and Egypt. The religious life in Gorham would have been a mix of Islam and indigenous practices. By the 18th century, Islamic influence was strong. Mosques existed in larger settlements, Islamic judges or qadis operated in some districts, and many people observed at least the outward forms of Islam introduced via Sennar and Darfur. At the same time, ancestral cults, beliefs in local mountain spirits, and magic remained part of the daily life of the rural populace, especially in the Nuba Hills. This blend of traditions created a unique cultural tapestry in the kingdom. Little is recorded in the contemporary chronicles about the founding of any kingdom of Gorham. However, the region corresponding to Gorham, Kordofan, did have its own early historical development. It was originally inhabited by indigenous peoples, including Nubia-speaking groups, and the name Kordofan itself may be derived from a Nubian term for men. Arab tribes and local people began, in a sense, to develop the groundwork for laying the cultural Islamic polity in the area. The economy of the Kingdom of Gorham, Kordofan, was predominantly based on agriculture, pastoralism, and trade in natural resources. The fertile parts of the region, particularly around the Nuba Mountains, produced sorghum, millet, and other grains, supporting the local populations. In the savanna areas, Arab herders raised large numbers of cattle as well as sheep and goats. Livestock was a form of wealth and a trade commodity for hides, meat, and transport animals. More notably, Kordofan was known for certain valuable exports that tied into a broader trade network. Slave trading was a grim but significant economic activity. Enslaved people were gathered often through war or raids and sent along caravan routes north to Egypt or east to Sinai and the Red Sea coast. In fact, slaves were the most, quote, important export product of the Sudan in pre-colonial times, followed at a distance by other goods. Those other goods included gold, gum, Arabic, and ostrich feathers. Gold was mined in the hills. The Tigali kingdom controlled gold mines in the Shibun, and nuggets of gold dust would be traded. Gum Arabic, a resin from acacia trees in northern Kordofan, was prized for use in ink, food, and medicine. Merchants collected it and exchanged it for cloth and beads. Ostrich feathers were gathered for export as luxury items. Being landlocked, Gorham relied on overland trade routes. One caravan route ran from the Kordofan westward to Darfur and further to Lake Chad, linking to the trans-Saharan trade. This might explain historical claims that Kordofan was part of the Kanem-Bornu trade. Another route went eastward to the Nile. Merchants from Kordofan traveled to Sennar on the Blue Nile or to Omdurman, Khartoum, on the White Nile to exchange goods. Through Sennar, they accessed the Red Sea trade via ports like Suakin. Gorham's economy was thus intertwined with its neighbors. It supplied raw products, especially slaves and gum, and in return received salt, cloth, and goods, and other necessities. The ruling class benefited from taxing this caravan trade. However, the overall economy remained relatively undeveloped, largely subsistence farming and herding due to the region's isolation and sparse population. Okay, those of you out there right now, hit that button, hit that like button, like the video. Come on, like the video. Click that bell on so that you can get notification of upcoming videos. Come on now, be supportive. I should see at least 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 likes. Come on, hit that like button now. Take a moment and hit that like button and subscribe. Abyssinia, to the east, the highland Christian empire of Ethiopia, was a neighbor in a loose sense, but direct contact was limited by distance in the Nile Basin. Ethiopian rulers knew little of Gorham. The two regions were separated by the marshes of the White Nile and the frontier of Sinai. However, in European depictions, Gorham is sometimes shown beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, reflecting perhaps the biblical notion of remote lands past Ethiopia. There's no evidence of direct warfare or alliance between Gorham's kings and the Ethiopian emperors. The Abyssinian focus is usually north or south, not across the Nile to the west. To the immediate east of Kordofan lay the Fon Sultanate, which was a dominant region power from the 16th, 18th centuries. Sennar frequently treated Kordofan as a vassal territory. The Fon armies campaigned westward. For example, circa 1650, Sennar's Sultan Badi II defeated the Tigali king and imposed tribute. Sennar controlled parts of eastern and southern Kordofan, intermediately the provinces of Wodayat mentioned earlier. Many inhabitants of Gorham had connections to Sennar. For instance, Nuba slaves were conscripted into the Sennar army. This relationship was one of suzerainty rather than direct annexation. Sennar's influence waned in the 18th century, allowing local Kordofani rulers more freedom. You know, this is off the subject, but that's one thing I couldn't understand. Even when I was studying, the Black Irish in Ireland, how these people could be conquered, and then they would be forced to fight in the military. But I guess if you didn't fight, they would kill you. So I guess it was either you fight them or you fight the enemy. So I guess maybe that was what it was all about. But again, it seems very complicated. This whole idea of you conquer some people, then you put them in the military, and then they fight for you, and they die. And it's I think it's complicated. I can't understand it, but I didn't live. I haven't had to live in those times, so maybe that's why I don't understand. Maybe I just feel that though I have too much freedom growing up in America, and maybe that's it. Throughout its history, the Kingdom of Gorham had to navigate powerful neighbors and often came under their influence. West of Gorham was Darfur, a powerful Islamic sultanate. The Far Qaeda dynasty often clashed with Sennar for control of Kordofan. In the 18th century, Darfur emerged victorious in this contest. The first Sultan, Muhammad Tirab, invaded Kordofan around 1785, effectively incorporating it into the Darfur Sultanates. For a few decades before 1820, Kordofan was governed by the Darfuri Fakirs, who collected tribute. Relations with Darfur, therefore, were intentionally hostile, invasions and resistance. But once subjugated, Kordofan became a province of Darfur. The Darfuri rule was noted for heavy slave trading. Still, the local Tigali dynasty managed to survive by accommodating Darfur's sovereignty to some extent. To the far west across the Sahara lay Kanem Bornu, around Lake Chad. While not a direct neighbor, Bornu's influence is said to have reached Kordofan through trade and diplomacy in earlier centuries. Some historians emphasize that Kordofan paid tribute or had trade relations with Bornu during the medieval period, which would explain why Leo Africanus and others thought of Gorham as connected to Nigerida, the western Sudan region. However, any such connection would have been indirect and had likely faded by the 17th century, where Darfur and Sennar were more immediate powers. Throughout its history, the Kingdom of Gorham, Kordofan, had to navigate powerful neighbors and often came under their influence. To the north, beyond Nubia, the Ottoman controlled Egypt, eyed Sudan's riches. In the early 19th century, Egypt became a direct neighbor, in a sense by conquering upstream. In 1821, the Ottoman Egyptian army, led by Muhammad Ali's sons, invaded and conquered Kordofan from Darfur's rule. This was effectively the end of any independent kingdom of Gorham. After 1821, Kordofan was governed by Egypt as part of the Egyptian Sudan. The Egyptian president introduced new administration and attempted to curtail the slave trade with limited success. Montreal, you can look over the right-hand side. You can see the Ottoman Empire. You can see how this area was set up and see some of the powers that existed, in North Africa and into Mesopotamia and Southern Europe at that time. In summary, Gorham's relationships were usually defined by subordination or resistance. The kingdom and its people often found themselves paying tribute to more powerful states or fending off slave raids. Yet the rugged terrain of parts of Kordofan, like the Nuba Mountains, and the factional rivalries of its big neighbors allowed Gorham periodic autonomy. It placed the Nor against Darfur when possible, and later took advantage of Egyptian versus Mahdist conflicts to assert local control, as the Tigali Mek did in the late 19th century by siding with the British. By the 19th century, the Kingdom of Gorham was a distant entity, and it had effectively disappeared from political maps. The key turning point was the Egyptian conquest in the early 1820s, which brought Kordofan firmly under foreign rule. Egyptian authorities, the Turkey, established garrisons and a provincial administration integrating Kordofan into the new Sudanese territories they controlled. This ended the Musabat Sultanate and curtailed the power of local kings like the Mek of Tegali. Though Tegali continued to hold local influence, it was now a vassal. In summary, Gorham's relationships were usually defined by subordination or resistance. The kingdom and its people often found themselves paying tribute to more powerful states or fending off slave raiders. This made him, in a sense, a very subject people. A people had to fight to maintain any authority. The next blow came with the Mahdist revolt in the 1880s. In 1881, a Sudanese Islamic revivalist, Muhammad Ahmed al-Mahdi, launched a rebellion against Egyptian rule. Kordofan became a flashpoint. In 1883, the Mahdist force annihilated an Egyptian army under Colonel William Hicks at a place called Shekian in the Kordofan. The Mahdists took over Kordofan and then remained in autonomy. The Tegali kingdom was crushed. The last Mecca Tegali was captured and later killed during the Mahdist period. The Mahdist state, 1885-1898, treated Kordofan simply as one of its provinces, and the distinct identity of Gorham was by then a thing of the past. Finally, the Anglo-Egyptian reconquest in 1898 folded Kordofan into the Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. From 1899 onward, Kordofan was administered as a province under colonial rule by the British. In essence, the decline of Gorham was not a sudden collapse of a centralized empire, but the gradual absorption by larger states. Let's look at it. 18th century, loss of independence as doctrines and now exerted control. 1820, conquest by Egypt ends indigenous rule. 1880s, Mahdist conquest, these were the fuzzy wuzzies, and violence in the region destroyed remaining royal lines. 1890s, colonial partition formalized the end of any kingdom. By the 20th century, the memory of the kingdom of Gorham survived, mainly in old books and maps. Locally, people identified as Kordofanis by tribal affiliation, and the region became just another part of the Sudan. The existence of the kingdom of Gorham is a fascinating case of historical geography. It straddles the line between documentation and myth. On one hand, modern historians conclude that Gorham was real as Kordofan. On the other hand, early European reports about Gorham were clouded by speculation and legend due to scant direct knowledge of the area. For example, the English travel editor John Pori in 1600 relayed Abyssinian tales of a mighty Jewish kingdom west of the Nile. He wrote that, and I quote, "Towards the west of Ethiopia there inhabited a most populous nation of the Jewish stock under a mighty king. That in the southern quarter of the kingdom of Gorham there are certain mountains, people with Jews." This was a reference to the legend of the lost tribes. The idea that some Ethiopian or Sudanese mountains sheltered a remnant of ancient Israel. Such accounts mix biblical lore with geography, effectively placing a mythical dimension onto Gorham's name. In reality, the mountains of Jews likely allude to the presence of the Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews in the Simeon Mountains, far to the east, or were simply a fantasy. This illustrates how Gorham's existence was sometimes portrayed as exotic or quasi-legendary by outsiders who had never visited it. When European map makers labeled the kingdom of Gorham on their maps, they were often relying on secondhand reports. The name itself went through variations. The Afrikaners referred to a place called Gorham. The Spanish writer Marmon, 16th century, spelled it Gorham, and later compilers like Pori and others wrote Gorhamar. Modern scholars examining these sources conclude that all these refer to the Kordofan. The correspondence is convincing. Gorham fits Kordofan's location and context. However, because the Europeans never saw a unified kingdom of Gorham with their own eyes, the details they provide were sparse and sometimes contradictory. In terms of documentation, local records or chronicles of Gorham are virtually absent. Most knowledge comes from outside observers, Arabic historians of the Sudan, those writing the Font chronicles, mention Kordofan and its sub-kingdoms in passing, but nothing by the name Gorham. Or tradition of the Nuba people preserve the memory of Tegali kings, but again, Gorham, as such, doesn't appear in oral histories. It was an external label. European geographers up to the 19th century continued to list Gorham in gazetteers of Africa. Yet by the mid-19th century, explorers like Wilhelm von Tode and others from Sudan rarely used that name, instead speaking of Kordofan. Today's historians clarify that Gorham was a historical region rather than a well-documented kingdom. Its existence is not mythical in the sense of being fictional. The region and its rulers were real, but the knowledge about it was so limited that it acquired a semi-mythical aura in the early literature. The Kingdom of Gorham does not feature in mainstream West African history texts, unlike Ghana, Mali, and Sangay, precisely because it was more an obscure Sudanese polity, known only via indirect reports. In conclusion, the Kingdom of Gorham was historically real as a geographical political entity, though under a different name. It corresponds to the region of Kordofan in central Sudan, which from medieval to early modern times saw the rise of local sultanates and chieftaincies. Gorham's people were a mix of Nuba, Sudanic, and Arab cultures, practicing agriculture, herding, and participating in the trade networks of the African interior. The kingdom's foundations lay in post-Nubian local rule, and it was shaped by the expansion of Islam and the slave trade. Major dynasties like the Musabat sultans and the Tegali Mecks ruled parts of it, though they often bowed to mightier neighbors. Culturally, Gorham bridged Black African and Arab Islamic worlds, and economically, it was known for slave and gold exports, among other products. These are some of the sources. This is going to be on my Patreon. So join my Patreon. It's only $5. Only $5. Join my Patreon. Be supportive. Help me to do more research. Help me to write more papers. And I'm able to do this because I'm supported by you, my Patreon followers. The Kingdom of Gorham, History and Legend. Thank you so much for allowing me to talk with you this evening. Thank you so much for joining me, because I wanted to relay to you this history of this important and key kingdom, the Kingdom of Gorham, History and Legend. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for being there, and thank you for always being there to allow me to talk with you, spend time with you, and allow you to know that it's only through our working together that we can find peace, knowledge, and support. Yes, yes, yes. We have to be supportive of each other, you know. I want to thank Karen Vincent. Thank you, Karen. Todd. Thank you, Q Brown. Thank you guys for supporting me. And you guys are usually here just about every week. And I appreciate the fact that you guys join me every Thursday. And be supportive. Please support me. Please support, in a sense, me. And please, support my Patreon. Please join my Patreon. And also support Sunday School.
Supplemental learning for your mini. But you can learn too. Don't send your mini into the belly of the beast unarmed. Courses, practical math, language, the code, our story, and more. An institution founded by us, dedicated to us and our fight for justice. Here you will learn ways to combat the system using the same information they are trying to keep away from you. Welcome to FBA Sunday School.
Black history gems essays. Black history gems essays. Black history gems essays. Black history gems essays. Let's time travel in a book, go far in a book. When is the last time you read a real book? Knowledge given in a book. Benefit from a book, create a movie from a book. Just don't forget to give thanks to the author who put time into the book. Thanks. Black history gems, black history, black history gems, essays. Black history gems, essays. Black history gems, essays. Atlantis in
energy, coming like whoa. Spring water, let it that go. Free your mind, let it that go. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, let it nigga know. Let it nigga know. Energy, coming like whoa. Spring water, let it that grow. Free your mind, let it that go. To the top, drop it to the floor. Energy, coming like whoa. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, she told me go and put it in her heart. I told her I don't wanna break it all apart. Let me be a night light in the dark. Hey, my nigga shine bright with the art. Gemini 2-time, know it's hard. Got the stars on the line with the charts. Big dog, so I gotta leave a mark. Free your mind, cause I'm not that smart. Hey, energy, got my light walk. Spring water, how did that grow? Free your mind, let it that go. To the top, drop it to the floor. Hey, energy, got my light walk. Spring water, how did that go? Free your mind, let it that go. Tap in, go, let it nigga know. Hey, let it nigga know.
What's up, everybody? It's Eve. Follow me on Twitter and YouTube for space recordings and special live programs. 2024, we're doing things a little different if you haven't peeped game by now. So yeah, this is your chance. You can do it now if you want. Hit the bell here on YouTube at JustEveB, or find me on X at Justice4Just_Us. That's JUSTICE, 4 JUST_US. And if you feel so inclined, support my channel and the work we do over here. The Cash App and Patreon links are in the description. Black first.
Our identity in our culture is black. Our identity in our culture is black, foundational Americans. Yes, yes. Wars between black Indians and whites were manufactured to produce black slaves for whites. The English, the French, and the Dutch provided the Native Americans with guns, rum, and cheap goods to purchase Native American Indian slaves. Between 1670 and 1720, many black Native Americans were enslaved. The black Native Americans were sold into slavery throughout the 13 colonies, Mississippi Valley, Canada, and the British West Indies. The majority of black Native Americans sold into slavery by whites and Indians. Slave traders were the Choctaw, the Yamasee, and other Carolina tribes. Yes, yes. Many of these tribes, like the Mandi, Mandinga, many of these tribes, we've lost their names. And their names have been lost to history because of the fact, in a sense, that when the European came, as he conquered these black Indians, he just made them slaves. And so over time, in a sense, their nations disappeared. Over time, in a sense, their history wasn't recorded. Over time, they were even able to deny that Aboriginal blacks even existed in America. They wanted to give our Aboriginal ancestors gifts. And the only problem with the gifts that they gave us was that often these blankets that they gave us carried smallpox. Yes, diseases. They also, in a sense, gave us another gift, rum, fire water. And this rum caused an addiction among us. It, in a sense, it led to a demand for guns because it incentivized Indian slave trading. Yes, the first slaves sold in America were Indians, black Indians, selling other black Indians to Europeans to work on their cotton, not on their cotton plantations, their tobacco plantations, their rice plantations. Yes, yes, yes. We sold each other over here, just like in Africa, because of the fact is that we failed to understand that we are one, we are one, we are one. We should be united based upon our identity and our culture as black foundational Americans. Yes, yes. Reparations, baby, reparations. We deserve reparations. We deserve reparations like yesterday, not just today. No, not just today. We deserve our reparations. Give us our money, baby. Cut the check.
Cut the check, black first because it's brilliant. People talk too much. Say less, remain on cold, follow the spirit. When the going gets tough, it's time for resilience. Cut the check, black first because it's brilliant. People talk too much. Say less, remain on cold, follow the spirit. When the going gets tough, it's time for.
The only thing that can save you is be one, be one, be one. To fight Cage, you must stay black.